I'm Wayne Monteith, joined the FAA about 2 years ago, following a 29-year career in the United States Air Force, where my last job was actually running Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, the busiest, most successful spaceport in the entire world. And so it kind of just dovetailed right into what I do today, because in my current job, I'm responsible for regulating the U.S. space transportation industry. And specifically, it boils down to protecting the public property, in the national security and foreign policy interests of the United States. But we also have a secondary mandate in our statute, which is to encourage, facilitate, and promote the industry. And also, and this is the part I like best, is regulate only to the extent necessary, which is exactly what we have to be able to do to be able to foster and allow for innovation and speed in this industry.
And take us through where we've been and where we are now. I mean, thinking about the number of launches this year versus even 2020 and looking backward.
We're seeing an increase in cadence and complexity in this industry like we've never really seen before. Just a decade ago, so I'll take you back to 2011. The FAA licensed one commercial space launch. It flew off a sea launch out of the Pacific. Just last Wednesday, we did 2 FAA licensed launches in the space of just under 6 hours. Last year, we had a record-breaking year, a total of 41 operations. This fiscal year so far, we're about 1/3 of the way through, I'm already at 23 licensed operations. So if you go back 2 years, it was about 31. Last year was 41. This year, I see us easily surpassing 50. Once you get to that, you're really talking on average, a launch every single week. And I can tell you within the next couple of years, I see that going past 100.
And I think what's really key, and you've mentioned this already, and what we've heard from you over the past couple of weeks that we've been talking to you, is that the mission of what you're looking to do and what these industries and companies are coming now into these industries are looking to do, they're really aligned.
They really are. Space transportation industry is absolutely critical to our national security, our national economy. I mean, you can even pull it all the way down to STEM in education and getting our younger folks, our high school, our junior high school kids, elementary school kids excited.
One of the big questions is this transition from the Trump administration to the Biden administration. We just saw the new Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, talk about his goals. Space wasn't mentioned during that testimony. What can you tell us about what we can expect now from the Biden camp?
First off, as you know, the previous administration was all in on space and made a lot of bold moves. I'm not exactly sure where the new administration is going yet, but I can tell you it's going to be important to them. But I would also take you back 4 years previously, where Secretary Elaine Chao, who was our previous Secretary of Transportation, I think her testimony or hearing was about 3 hours long, and space encompassed about 45 seconds. But I can tell you, having worked for her, her interest in space and being a champion of space was worth a whole lot more than that first 45 seconds. So I have extremely high hopes for the incoming administration that they're going to embrace space, as will Secretary Buttigieg, because quite frankly, this is not going away. This is, this is kind of Buck Rogers stuff that we're getting into now.
I want to talk about how the FAA looks at newcomers versus these sort of heritage companies, I think is the word that you used to use. How do you evaluate newcomers looking to expand into space, to travel?
First off, it's really a level playing field. The only difference is experience. And so we evaluate everybody the same way because it's all based on public safety. Now, last year we did go through a major rulemaking process. It was actually about a 2.5-year process. And it was part of the streamlining regulations. And I got comments when it first came out, only the government would call a 700-page document streamlined. Well, if you really boil down to the regulatory aspect, the regulation text, it was only about a little over 100 pages, which represented an 85% reduction in what we were operating under. But one of the major tenets of that was moving from what we call a prescriptive approach to a performance-based. Prescriptive, we tell you what to do. and you meet the requirement. Under a performance, you tell us what you're going to do, and we validate that you've met the requirement, which is absolutely critical when you have operations that are flying rockets back, or you have operations like Relativity Space that are doing the entire rocket 3D manufacturing. Under the old construct, there was no way we could keep up with industry. We are now postured to be able to take industry into the next decades.
And really, from moving that from that defense sort of perspective for space and into commercialization, can you speak really briefly on how you see this forming?
So when you look at, the traditional companies that grew up under government, they were really launched on schedule. So because the government drove the payload, the government drove the need. So if I told you, I need you to launch in 4 years, 3 months, and 4 days, that's when you were going to launch. The companies now, because it is business oriented, they launch on readiness. As soon as that rocket's ready to go and that payload's ready to go, they want to go. And so that we don't become that impediment to the success of US companies, we, as the FAA, as the primary regulator in this industry, we have to be ready as well.
Can you speak a little bit more about maybe the influx of demand or applications that you've seen over the last 5 years and what you anticipate going forward for the next, 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, so it's really incredible. If you go back 5 years, we were really dealing with a couple of companies. SpaceX was ramping up, still dealing with you or working with United Launch Alliance, and now, I think we've got at this point somewhere on the order of about I want to say 21, 22 different companies that we're working with in pre-application, are getting ready to go down the licensing process. And again, I continue to see that expand as long as there's a good investment environment and a good regulatory environment. I've been in this business for about 3 decades, and I have never seen a time where you have a confluence of excitement from either the administration or Congress through the departments all the way down to the American people. One of the things that's driving that is not just, like Chris mentioned, is the lower cost to orbit, or access to more money, but it's the excitement of people being able to get involved in space themselves. We've got SpaceX now putting Americans into space. Boeing will be doing it with United Launch Alliance. Virgin Galactic is doing it, and they will start flying commercial spaceflight participants, what we call them, human spaceflight participants. And Blue Origin is going to be doing the same thing. So what it does is it opens up to folks like you and I can actually go to space, when in the past it was NASA astronauts.
What is really the regulator on your, if you put your regulator hat on, looking for when it comes to greenlighting new projects?
Paying attention to the regulatory requirements and working with us early. I've got a team set aside just to go through what we call pre-application, to get you started, to help you run through the entire gamut in a way that is not as resource intensive as it used to be. CEOs and presidents of companies also have my direct line, and they can reach out to me directly if our teams are miscommunicating or not communicating well with each other. And what may take the lower levels employees, either on the regulatory side or in these launch companies, weeks or months to get through, we can sometimes fix in a single phone call.
There's a question here about safety, and I know safety is a main goal of yours. So the question is, how much safer are we doing, let's say, human launches in the near future versus, 10 years out?
We have now licensed approximately 400 operations since my office has been in existence, and never had a serious injury or fatality to the uninvolved public. And that's what we do right now. Now, on the human spaceflight side, we don't actually regulate the safety of the passengers right now. Congress gave us the statutory authority to do that, but then put it into abeyance, essentially. And so we're in what was called a learning period. And that's so it gives the industry a chance to grow. But you got to understand, there's risk in everything that we do. We lose approximately 100 Americans every single day due to traffic accidents. And yet we've got an inherently dangerous endeavor here where we're not losing people. And so my job is to help these companies keep the public safe and, quite frankly, be successful.